No pain, no gain is often an expression people will use whether playing sports or working out. My brothers once thought it meant no pain, no game. So often our gains would include a lot of bruises and bloody lips and noses. Not now I know that it's no pain, no gain. That you can't really reap rewards if there's nothing that you're going to sacrifice. Those rewards that are truly worth obtaining are the ones that we hand over, that we sacrifice. And it is the same with the Christian journey. The Christian life is our greatest pain leads to our greatest gain. Well, what is that pain and gain? Well, we can learn from what Jesus' greatest gain was. The glory of God. He says, Father, glorify your name. Give honor and praise to your name. But what is honor and glory to God? What gives God the greatest honor and glory? One saint, St. Irenaeus, said, the glory of God is man fully alive. Is man fully alive. And so Jesus sees that we were dead to our sins, so he obeys God. He surrenders his will so that we could have life and God could be glorified. His greatest pain and his greatest gain, however, needed the greatest pain, which is the surrendering of his will. We hear in that second reading, what did we hear? He learned obedience through what he suffered. Obedience. That virtue which is the surrendering of our most prized possession, our will. We all love to be in control. We all love to choose what we want to do. And so to surrender that, our prized possession, is the greatest pain, but only by that could Jesus really win the greatest gain, which is God's glory, which in the end is our having life, our having happiness. And so Jesus' greatest gain is our greatest gain, because by baptism we are immersed into Jesus' life. We're truly united. As it says in the Romans, we are baptized into Jesus' death so that we can also receive his resurrection. Basically, we are baptized into Jesus' greatest pain so that we too can receive his greatest gain. And so it's up to us to respond to our baptismal call. If we want to gain life, happiness, we have to share in his pain. Not necessarily being crucified literally, but we have to learn obedience by handing over that most prized possession, which is our will. And so how is this realized? Well, we can realize it every single day in little ways. In little ways where we obey our bosses, kids when we obey our teachers, and when we obey our parents. In the workplace, at school, at home, there's many opportunities where we encounter a pain of obedience. And people are often afraid, well, Father, I don't want to obey something that's wrong. I don't want to obey something that's going to lead me to sin. Well, that's pretty obvious, but usually, more times than not, it's an obedience to something that's painful because we don't want to do it. It's not necessarily morally good or morally bad. It's just neutral, like go take out the trash. I don't want to do that. Or can you get something for me? Can you be quiet so I can teach? Or can you do this project for me in the workplace? Many different opportunities to just lay down our wills. And by those little ways, we imitate Jesus in that loving obedience, which will lend us to obey God more. Because ultimately, our obedience is tied to God. to God who has already loves us and desires us to trust him, because in order to lay down our most prized possession, what do we need? The trust that God will truly not forsake that sacrifice, but will confirm it, but will validate it, but will make the greatest gain arise from it, which is the same trust that Jesus had. People think, though Son, though he was, people think, oh, he's God, he already knew the plan. No, in a sense, he's human too. So he has to trust. And he wants us to trust as well. And he's going to give us that grace in Holy Communion, because here on this altar, every Mass is the celebration of the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus. It's not just, oh, we're remembering it. No, it's mystically, it's spiritually happening once again here. And so when we receive communion, we receive that down payment on the gain that we are about to experience. This life, this communion with God, this happiness, peace, it's all in that communion. And so let's ask for the grace to trust that by obeying, by listening to God and listening to our superiors, and by submitting our wills to them, our greatest pain will lead to our greatest gain. That our dying to self will lead to our rising with God. And that all of this, our sacrifices, will not be in vain. Our pain won't be in vain, but our greatest pain will lead to our greatest gain.